Welcome to another edition of the Craig Carton Show. Great to have you here on the last Monday in March. And to my right is not Tyrone Johnson. Tyrone Johnson's homesick, but he's a trooper, and he understands the rules of the Carton Show are if you can speak and get your ass out of bed, you show up for work, albeit from home. He looks terrible. He's probably going to sound terrible, but I'm not going to be critical of a guy that decides that the job is important and gets his ass out of bed even with 103-degree fever. So, good morning, Tyrone. Hope you're feeling a little bit better now that you get to see my pretty face and hear my beautiful voice today.
Let me tell you, I feel great.
Good. All right, well, listen, let's get into, obviously, the story of the century right now, and that's the amazing comeback, UConn over Duke. First and foremost, allow me to say this. I hate Duke with the passion of 1,000 suns, so I ain't going to be crying today over Duke being eliminated. Plus, Duke beat UConn 30 years ago on a lateness shot at the buzzer. Duke beat Kentucky a million years ago on the lateness shot off the Grand Hill baseball home run pass, whatever you want to call it, in Philadelphia all those years ago. So they've had their share of winning. It's time that Duke starts losing, and since Shire became the head coach there, that's what they do. They blow up in a big spot. They did it last year. They did it again yesterday, and I'm here for all of it. So a couple quick things, all right? First and foremost, you got a timeout left. You got to tell the kids on the court, if you get trapped, if you're panicking, call a timeout. Matter of fact, he could call a timeout, and he doesn't call a timeout, number one. Number two, the younger of the, not younger, the less talented of the two Boozer brothers, because they're obviously twins, born at the same time, picks up his dribble there and then panics trying to get the ball over the outstretched arms of two UConn defenders. Again, you have to know the situation. This is coaching 101, right? Either call the timeout or just hang on to the ball. You hang on to the ball, UConn has to foul you. If they don't foul you, the clock runs out, you're going to the Final Four. If they do foul you, you're going to the free throw line, and he's a damn good free throw shooter, over 80% on the year, and you're shooting two at that spot. Make them both, game is over. Make one out of two. Maybe UConn has a second, maybe a second and a half to go the length of the court and hoist up a three to tie the game. This game was lost because John Shire, the head coach of Duke, does not know how to coach in a big spot, Tyrone.
Yeah, it's disappointing if you're a Duke fan. Now, I had Duke in my bracket, but I was rooting against them. I was rooting for UConn, if I'm being honest. But I don't know how you do this with this many good players, how you blow it. They were the more talented team.
Not just this year. This is what he does every year. They recruit better than just about everybody. They've got more talent than any team in basketball in the last 10 years without going to a Final Four. And if you're winning by 20, it's easy to be a coach, right? You're up by 20, right? It's not hard to coach a team that's up by 20. But when you need to coach these kids in a one-possession game, he is horrendous at it and was again yesterday. And I give UConn the kids the credit. And Mullins, who makes the shot, of course, with ice water in his veins. But that team never quit. They never gave up. They chipped away. This is a team that was one for its first 18 from behind the arc and then made three of its last four to win the game. But if you're trying to find a singular cause or reason for why the Duke Blue Devils lost, it's their head coach who still has a timeout in his back pocket when he went to bed last night.
It's unbelievable how that happens. How do you still have a timeout? And the other part is, how do you let Hurley take your lunch money coachingly? UConn's players knew exactly what to do in that situation, and Duke's players just didn't know what to do.
Well, the only thing I'll push back on that is, they didn't foul right away. And I'm thinking you got to foul right away. Under 10 seconds to go. Your guy misses the first free throw, makes the second one, right? I thought they kind of foobarred that possession a little bit. They let 14 seconds come off the clock before they attempted a shot. And then, of course, once Duke inbounds the ball, I'm thinking you got to foul right away because at that point, your only shot to win, in my opinion, was going to be if they don't make convert free throws. So there was a chance where the final 10 seconds are going to come off the clock and UConn never fouls. And the clock would have gone to triple zeros, and UConn would have lost the game by 2, and everyone would have said to Danny Hurley, why didn't you foul in that spot? So I give UConn a lot of credit, but and everyone knows Danny Hurley, I think, and I've said it the entire season, is the best college coach in America. Nobody asked him that question after the game. I'd love to understand the rationale for not fouling. Because in that spot, mathematically, your only chance is to foul and hope that Duke misses a free throw, and then you get that one last possession to tie the game. But obviously, history's not going to tell that story. All history's going to remember is one of the greatest endings of a college basketball game in the tournament to go to the Final Four that we've ever seen.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the other part, though, they had the trap ready, and they made Duke throw it under their own basket, which is usually a no-no. That's what I thought the play got away from them. When they threw it under their own basket before they passed the boozer, that's where I think it started to fall apart. You never want to throw it under your own basket. Duke did that. So I do think that trap was set there by Hurley on that particular spot.
And he does look, there's 2 Duke Blue Devils wide open in the front court. Obviously, if the pass goes over the outstretched arms of the UConn players, they don't even have to shoot the ball. But you have 2 wide open guys, theoretically can make the layup, and you end the game or just dribble out the clock and end the game there. But I think yesterday's game, in a lot of ways, saved the tournament. Now, look, I always love the tournament. It's always great. But you're talking about a Michigan team that's won every game by an average of 20-some-odd points. Arizona's blown everybody out. Duke had been blowing everybody out. And other than, a Vanderbilt game here or, a good 8-9 matchup in the first round, the reality, give Iowa some credit, obviously, for making the run as deep as they did. This was another tournament filled with blowouts and filled with top seeds dominating lesser seeds. And then yesterday happened. Down by 19. It looks like a coronation for Duke. They're going to join Michigan. They're going to join Arizona as 1 seeds getting into the Final Four. And we're going to all talk about how the tournament's not what it used to be and we don't want chalk and all this nonsense. And the reality is that Duke choked. And I don't care any other word for it. And I give UConn a lot of credit because they had to keep making shots despite the fact they were 1 for their first 18 from behind the arc. They never gave up. They never quit. Danny Hurley did a good job with them in the second half. Every time they got it to single digits, Duke came back, made it 11, made it 12, then back down to 10, 9, 8, etc. And that team just didn't quit, never gave up. And I don't think it was a coaching clinic that Danny Hurley put on, but I do think he was the better coach. And obviously, with ice in their veins, Mullins makes the shot, and he did not shoot well throughout the game. That sends UConn to the Final Four, which allows me now to bring up our predictions before the tournament began. You guys have that. Let's take a look-see. So my Final Four was UConn got it right, Houston got it wrong, Arkansas got it wrong, and Michigan got it right. And my championship game, UConn-Michigan. So I'm still alive for the championship games. Now, your women's picks were pretty good. Your men's picks, I don't know if we have them, if we want to put them up or not, not as good. Not as good. Although I do think you have Michigan, right?
I do have Michigan winning the whole thing. I had Arizona as well. Yeah, on that side, not as great. Not as great, okay. I'll admit, on that side.
But here's the deal. If UConn beats Illinois, all right, and Michigan beats Arizona, then you and I go head-to-head. Because you have Michigan winning it all. I've got UConn winning it all. And then it gets ugly in here. Then it gets personal. But you talk all those other hammerheads out there trying to pick the tournament. Tyrone and I sit here every day. 60,000 unique viewers on our fast channels. 350 million views on our social media platforms. And we get it right. Now, we don't always get it right. But when you combine the genius of Tyrone Johnson and Craig Carton between us, we typically get things right. And if we get a UConn-Michigan championship game, then one of us will wake up a week from tomorrow and be able to gloat that we are the kings of college basketball. Much more coming up. It's the Carton Show after this. Welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyron Johnson working from home today. A little bit under the weather, but a trooper to get up out of bed, so appreciate that, of course. Obviously, all the world's talking about Duke and UConn, rightfully so, and we like to place blame in this society. So I think we all agree with blaming the head coach of Duke for failing again to use his timeout or tell the kids the exact situation. So Duke's going to have to suck that up. By the way, I'd have no problem if Duke fired him today. No problem whatsoever. Really? Considering all the talent that has come through there, not just in the last 10 years, Tyrone, in the last 5 years, like you are talking about legitimate NBA superstars that have played at Duke. If I really go back, a full decade, not just 5 or 6 years, like Jason Tatum, Zion Williamson, Cooper Flagg, Paolo Banchero, Cam Boozer, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, Con Knippel, the likely Rookie of the Year this year. Jared McClain, of course, you had him in Philadelphia, hurt a lot, but is excelling in Oklahoma City right now. And on and on and on. You could make an NBA All-Star team out of that list right there, and they have 0 Final Four appearances or championships since any one of those guys played for Duke. Zero.
So, I want to ask you. I know you said you'd be fine if they fired him now. I don't think they're going to do it.
They're not going to.
What does he have to do? But what does he have to do next year? If he doesn't get to the Final Four next year, are they looking for a different coach? Seriously.
I think there comes a point where I compare Duke basketball to Yankee baseball, where there's an expectation every single year because they recruit better than just about everybody every single year, and that list obviously backs that up, that we are going to be in the Final Four every single year, much like Yankee fans feel like we need to be in the World Series every single year, right? The reality is that they make it to the tournament every year. Not every team does. All right. The Yankees make it into the postseason every single year. Not every team does. So if I want to be fair to Duke, and I don't want to be fair to Duke because I can't. Because I can't stand. You'll appreciate it when you come in, Tyrone, on Wednesday. There's new employees here. I do not want to be fair to Duke because screw Duke, right? Because they've had all the success and look, even in their game against St. John's, after that game in the Sweet 16, a game that they won. The reality is that Duke's been the benefactor of more calls and fouls than any team by far. Like they're shooting like 20 more free throws per game than everybody else they've played against, which is just, it's not fair. When you're talking about games that get decided by a couple possessions and you're taking 20, 30, 40 free throws every single game. That being said, I think there's also unfair expectations of Duke Blue Devil fans, much like there's unfair expectations of New York Yankee fans, right? Of Notre Dame football back in the day, where you are the hated team because you're always in it. And then if you don't come home with the hardware in the championship, your fan base is pissed off. But there's 90% of the other schools out there that would sign up for a guaranteed Sweet 16 appearance and not making it to the Final Four because you're in it every year. Like the majority of baseball franchises would sign up for what the Yankees have given their fans, which is no World Series wins in the last 17 years, but they're in it every year with a chance to win the World Series. So if I want to be fair to Duke, and I don't, you're right. He's not going to get fired, but there will come a point where the Sweet 16 is just not good enough. Because even though I know both Boozer boys are not guaranteed first-round picks, Cameron Boozer may be the overall number one pick in the draft, meaning back-to-back years with the number one pick in the NBA draft, Cooper Flagg last year, and maybe Cameron Boozer this year. Maybe his brother stays in college for another year and runs the point for Duke, which would be, I think, a smart idea for him. Yeah, but there's going to come a time where if you're not getting to Final Fours, you got to go. Especially when you compare it to what Danny Hurley's done. He's had a handful of guys that have made it into the NBA, sure. He's now in his third Final Four in the last 4 years. And he doesn't have the number one pick in the NBA draft on his roster right now. I thought Reed played a hell of a game yesterday and was a dominant big man for them. And everything went through him, rightfully so. But nobody's talking about Reed as the number one pick. He'll be drafted, but he ain't going number one, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so I do think, look, North Carolina's going to hire a big-time coach. And a lot of people think he's going to hire the guy Floyd out of Arizona. I saw our guy Doug Gottlieb said he's been hearing rumors about that. A lot of people think your boy from Chicago, Billy Donovan, might actually go back to college because he was so successful in Florida, and he's on a short list for North Carolina. But, yeah, I think a couple more seasons of Duke getting the best recruits and having guys go to the NBA and not making it to a Final Four, I think there comes a point where, his job is not secure. I don't think it's right now, but I think if I'm a Duke booster or the athletic department, he and I have to have a pretty tough conversation about why didn't you call timeout? Simple.
Yeah, he's going to
Why didn't you tell? Because, Cameron Boozer got the ball first on the inbound. He then gave a bounce pass right back, as you're saying, to a teammate under his own hoop who did find the other Boozer brother around midcourt, right? But why didn't you tell these kids, whoever gets the ball, assuming we inbounded successfully, just hold on to it. You don't have to even make a first pass, right? Hold on to the ball, force UConn to foul you, and just go win the game at the free throw line. Right? So that's a tough conversation that I think they have to have with their head coach. Go ahead.
The other part, and that North Carolina thing, I think looms large because it's one thing when you're better than the other ACC teams. And you look around, they are still the best ACC team this year overall. But that's not going to last. Carolina's going to get players. Carolina's going to get top players, and they're going to win. And we got to remember, Hubert Davis beat Coach K in the Final Four in his last game. Like, Carolina finds a way with a bad coach, let alone if they get a good one. That's going to be a problem for them.
Yeah, look, and they're both always going to recruit really well because the heritage of the program. Because if you want to be an NBA player, those are still good programs to go through. ACC basketball still well thought of. Obviously, they're not as deep as the Big Ten was this year, especially from a tournament standpoint. But yeah, like if I'm a stud player, especially if I'm a player growing up in an inner city like a Chicago, New York, or Philadelphia, and I get to see the beautiful, grass that they have in North Carolina and the pretty girls at North Carolina and Duke, right? Like, it's like, why does St. John's have a tough time recruiting, kids in New York City? Because they're tired of seeing bricks, and cement. They want to go to what's, for many of them, a situation at a campus they've never seen before. No disrespect to the St. John's campus, but if I'm a great player from Queens, I want to get out of Queens. So it'll be interesting to see what Duke does. But again, a great tournament moment. You give me Tiger Woods playing real golf, and you got my eyeballs on your TV screen.
No matter what.
No matter what. I don't care what channel it's on. I don't care the network. I don't care where the course is, as long as it's outside. And if Tiger Woods is playing golf, you have my unadulterated loyalty. I'm watching every minute of that golf coverage because I know he's the only guy I'm going to see.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Last year, this is kind of where Kalshi got on the radar, I think. They started with the Super Bowl last year, right, where they started taking a little bit of betting on the Super Bowl, but March Madness is where it took off. And over the course of the entire men's and women's tournaments last year, they took about $500 billion in trades. This year, first weekend, Thursday through Sunday, they're already past $1 billion traded.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Whatever the gap people believe is between the Dodgers and the Mets, I think that's the gap between the Mets and then the third team. I think the Mets are comfortably the second best team in this league. The Phillies are a much older baseball team with an injured Zach Wheeler. The Braves' entire rotation is either injured or injury prone. Maybe you love this Cubs team.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I do believe there are causes for players to become basketball drunk. Thursday, Friday, you're sitting around a hotel and all you're doing is watching ball. And then you go out on the floor and you're a little bit groggy. Yeah, because all you've done is you've laid in that hotel bed and watched game after game after game. And you get caught up in the emotion. Like everybody in the country was.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson working from his Philadelphia studio. He went to the Phillies game over the weekend. Did they win that game you went to or lose that game? I didn't see it, honestly.
They lost the game, it was the coldest first pitch in 7 years. It was freezing out there.
It was like 40 degrees or something?
Yeah, it was 40 degrees. Yeah, it was. It's freezing out there. It's terrible.
All right. Did they win the series or did they lose yesterday,
No.
too? They lost to the Rangers?
Too.
Oh,
yes.
man,
2 or
that
3
sucks.
to the Rangers.
Meanwhile, I'm watching a lot of baseball over the weekend. The New York Mets take 2 out of 3 from the Pirates. The Yankees, of course, sweep San Francisco. The Yankees have the weirdest schedule to start off a season I've ever seen, where they have that standalone game Wednesday to open up the season. Then they're off on Thursday. They play Friday, Saturday. They're off yesterday, and now they start their next series against Seattle tonight against the Mariners. Their home opener is not until Friday, but they are 3-0. But the ABS stuff, which I think largely has been successful. I think most baseball fans are down with it. You had that situation, I think, in Cincinnati, where in the 9th inning of a close game with dudes on base, C.B. Buckner, is that the umpire's name?
That's right.
Called 2 strikeouts and got one player, I should say. I called a third called strike in a key part of the game and got overturned twice on it, and the crowd went crazy. So now you have the crowd involved with ABS, where I actually think it's good for the sport and good for the fun. I will say one thing, though. because they're now putting out these daily stats about how many ABS calls were overturned versus were upheld, which is obviously going to be a problem for these umpires because some of them, like this CB, is that his name? CB Buckner, are being kind of exposed, right? To be fair to the umps, I'll just say one thing. I don't think when they put the stats out that every overturned call is the same. Because I saw, even in the Met game against the Pirates, there was an overturned call. So the umpire said strike. It was tap the helmet. ABS gets brought in. They reviewed it, and they overturned it to a ball. And literally, it was 0.2 of an inch off the strike zone. So, yes, there are some balls and strike calls which are glaringly bad. And I think we should point those out. But they're not all the same. And if I'm an umpire and you're now going to grade me based on how many ABS calls got overturned from my original call, and it's literally 1/10 of an inch, I don't think that's fair to the umpires to group those overturned calls with the ones that are 2 or 3 or 4 inches off the plate.
Yeah, that part's fair. In the case of Buckner, he had one almost 2 inches on the outside, and then where he was petty was late there was a check swing, and he wouldn't appeal it because he was mad about it. They can't get too sensitive about it.
Right.
What are the players supposed to do? Like, he got sensitive about it. I didn't like that.
Yeah, but they're going to get sensitive. Like, you think Joe West, the famous umpire that used to give guys a lot of lip, you think a guy like that is going to be happy being overturned? Right?
No,
because these guys now have to deal with it because there's going to be a list put out every week now. What umpires have balls and strikes overturned the most? And my only point is because I like ABS and I give MLB credit that it is as fast as they claim it is. It's bang 2 seconds. If you don't tap your cap within 2 seconds, we're not going to review it. The review's been pretty quick. I think it's great when they show you the picture on the screen, which Netflix did not do in the opening game between the Yankees and the Giants. But I just think, and again, I'm not a pro umpire guy, but man, if you miss a pitch by 1/10 of an inch, I kind of feel like you didn't miss it,
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. They're not all the same. I get the players are fighting for their lives. It's so hard to hit a baseball. If you're a hitter, you want to make sure you know the zone. Like, I get it. But you're right. Those aren't the issue. But Buckner stinks. And I hope he resigns.
He apparently does stink. It's a good thing Angel Hernandez isn't a home plate umpire anymore because ABS was built for that guy and maybe that guy alone. But now that we've all gotten through our first series in Major League Baseball and on to the next, I'll just take a quick look here for you, Tyrone, because I know you're a little bit under the weather since you went to that Phillies game. But if I check out the National League East right now, the Philadelphia Phillies are the only team under 500. They're the only team with a losing record, and they are in dead last place, one series into Major League Baseball. And of all the teams to be sitting in first place, undefeated, the Miami Marlins right now are playoff bound if the season ended today. The Phillies, last place, and out of the playoffs. The Marlins in first place and going to the playoffs.
This is what we're going to do after one series. After
Only
one
because
series,
Phillies in last place. Yeah.
Okay, if they were 3-0, we wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Let's go to runs allowed. The Philadelphia Phillies have given up 16 runs, the most in the National League East. So not the start that Phillies fans wanted, but I'm sure we can blame it on the World Baseball Classic because there's nothing else to blame it on. back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson live from Philadelphia, joining us as always. A little bit under the weather, but doing great today. So big NFL news that a lot of people seem to have an interest in, and that is replacement refs. So the contract the NFL has right now with the union that represents NFL officials, that deal's coming to an end, and they're haggling over like a minuscule amount of money. So the NFL offered these referees in a multi-year deal, basically a 6.5% raise year after year after year. And the average ref is already making six figures for what we know is a part-time job that controls the outcome of billions of dollars of money invested in the product, right? So the NFL referees came back and said, 6.5% is not enough. We want a 10% raise year over year, and we want a $2.5 million marketing budget. Now, that one I don't quite understand. So let's just put that to the side because I'm not well read enough on it to know what they'd want to do with a $2.5 million marketing budget. I just don't understand why NFL referees need that, right? But the NFL offered 6.5% annual raises. Like, there are referees right now making north of $200,000 a year. I think the starting salary is just under $200,000 a year. These are guys that, while I know they're committed to the craft and they want to get calls right, they don't. Every single year, what do we complain about more than anything else in the NFL? Officiating. We don't know if it's a catch, if it's not a catch. We don't like how they spot the ball, where they spot the ball. We don't like holding calls and this call and that call. We are more critical of NFL refs than we are of home plate umpires in Major League Baseball, right?
Yes.
And the NFL said, we appreciate what you guys do. They've always defended them publicly. And now they're offering these guys a 6.5% raise every single year of a 5-year contract to maintain some peace between the NFL and the officials. And the officials said, no, we're greedy, man. We want more. Now, I do not know a single industry, sports included, where I can go to my boss and say, if you don't give me the guarantee of a 10% raise every single year, then I'm holding out. Because I don't get 10% raises. You don't get 10% raises. We all collectively get the old, and I love this one, when our employers give us this one, we're going to give you a cost of living raise. Okay, how much is that? Anywhere from 2 to 4%.
Yeah.
Excuse me? That's right, 2% to 4%. So let's take a guy making $50,000 a year, all right? A 4% raise on $50,000 is $2,000. $2,000 spread over 52 weeks is how much? Oh, I know. I'm good at math. $40 a week. That's the raise you just got for cost of living. And these guys, who every one of them has a second job, a real job, Monday to Friday, they fly in on Saturday, they do the game on Sunday, they fly home on Sunday night, and they're handsomely paid for it. 6.5% is not enough for them. They want 10%, and they want this mysterious $2.5 million marketing fee, which again, I don't know what that is, Tyrone, but I know this, that the NFL announced yesterday that they are now going to pick up the phone and call the unions representing Division I referees, Division II referees, and even Division III referees. Now, let me speak to Division III for a second, because I do know a little bit about that, having a son that played Division III college football. You do not want Division III referees officiating NFL games. These are glorified junior high school gym teachers who do not do a good job officiating Division III football, and I watched it with my own two eyes for the last 3 years, okay? Division II, go ahead. Division I, of course, I would think an SEC official can be an NFL official tomorrow. A couple rule changes, but not hard to figure it out. And every now and then, you got to be careful when you try to make a point and get greedy. Because if you don't think the NFL will tomorrow hire all of your replacements, then you don't know the NFL.
No, you're absolutely right about that. They don't care a lick. They'll replace all of them. But,
Tomorrow. Yep.
You're right. Let me for a moment try to take the ref's side, even though I'm not really on the ref's side. If they do have to get to Division III guys, we're all going to want them to have a 10% raise.
Yes,
like
we are.
if
That's
one
fair.
game
That's
happens,
fair.
an important game, like the Australia game or that Seattle game, very early, and they mess it up, like they did years ago when the last time they had replacement refs, I believe Aaron Rodgers was playing, and they didn't know what they were doing at the end of the game. All of a sudden, we'll say, you got the money. So maybe they're thinking, we'll have to play the long game, but as soon as these people see Division II and III refs, they'll want us back and they'll want us to get their money. That has to be their thinking.
Yeah, by the way, you're probably right about that. And again, I watched D3 refs. They're not great. They're not great. They're what you think they'd be. You know, guys that really love officiating, love being around youth sports, and I respect that. You know, guys that probably coach their kids and, you know, were officials in their hometown and that kind of stuff. And they're like, hey, maybe I can do this more permanently, or maybe I can make this a living, that kind of thing. So I don't want to knock their desire to be referees, because obviously D3 needs them as well. But you're right. If they wind up with replacement refs, and in the first weekend of the NFL season, you know, the Kansas City Chiefs get the benefit of a bad call, or, you know, a high-profile team or a high-profile game, you know, Sunday Night Football gets decided by a newbie ref that's never refed an NFL game prior to this season, everyone's going to yell and scream, bring back the real refs, which is something I never thought we'd ever scream, because I don't think the real refs are any good either. So, but again, the NFL, you and I know the hubris of the NFL. And that's not a league unless you've got the law on your side that you want to be in a fight with. Because they've got the funds to fight you, they've got the power to fight you, and they've got a whole bunch of dudes who would love to become NFL officials and make a couple $100,000 a year doing it. So this is one of those fights where I respect the attempt, and I get it. And you're paying a law firm to represent you and a union leader to represent you, and those people have to earn their living. So I understand the fight. But if you don't think the NFL will have replacement refs in some type of training camp by, what's today, end of March, by April 15th, then you don't know the NFL. And what they'll do is they'll grandstand it too. They'll leak out to the inside reporters that are on their payroll anyway, all of a sudden, that there's an NFL officiating camp, and those guys got 97% of the calls right. That's right. And they're going to bring to, like, you know, like pilots have simulators before they actually take a plane up in the air. They'll have simulating officials officiating, and the report's going to come out that the replacement refs got more calls right than the old school refs. That's the game that the NFL plays. And as a fan who hates officials and hates when officials seem, you know, one-sided or screw up the outcome of a game, it's going to be the wild, wild west if these temporary officials take over greed. But the NFL will fight you tooth and nail.
Yeah, they absolutely will. And the other part, it's already leaked out that early in the season, they'll be able to make more calls from New York. So they're basically going to have the eye in the sky. So if they do get things wrong, they'll be able to quickly correct it.
Yeah,
which
they started doing last year more and more, and it was very arbitrary. Like, all of a sudden, expedited review. Oh, wait, I didn't ask for a review. Right?
Nobody asked for it.
And expedited reviews seem to always help the team with the largest fan base or the most popular quarterback. I didn't see the Jets getting any expedited reviews. I saw the Eagles get a couple. I saw the Chiefs get a bunch. I know the Cowboys got a few. I know the Lions didn't get any. So that expedited arbitrary review, I don't want none of that. But you're right, it's coming, because if you have replacement officials, now it's going to be like, we got your back. You don't have to worry about it. We're going to officiate the game from New York on a big 50-inch flat screen TV. Oh, that's not that big anymore, 50-inch. Oh, it used to be.
885.
You give me Tiger Woods playing real golf, and you got my eyeballs on your TV screen.
No matter what.
No matter what. I
All
don't
right.
care what channel it's on. I don't care the network. I don't care where the course is, as long as it's outside. And if Tiger Woods is playing golf, you have my unadulterated loyalty. I'm watching every minute of that golf coverage because I know he's the only guy I'm going to see.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Last year, this is kind of where Kalshi got on the radar, I think. They started with the Super Bowl last year, right, where they started taking a little bit of betting on the Super Bowl, but March Madness is where it took off. And over the course of the entire men's and women's tournaments last year, they took about $500 billion in trades. This year, first weekend, Thursday through Sunday, they're already past $1 billion traded.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Whatever the gap people believe is between the Dodgers and the Mets, I think that's the gap between the Mets and then the third team. I think the Mets are comfortably the second best team in this league. The Phillies are a much older baseball team with an injured Zach Wheeler. The Braves' entire rotation is either injured or injury prone. Maybe you love this Cubs team.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
I do believe there are causes for players to become basketball drunk. Thursday, Friday, you're sitting around a hotel and all you're doing is watching ball. And then you go out on the floor and you're a little bit groggy. Yeah, because all you've done is just, you've laid in that hotel bed and watched game after game after game. And you get caught up in the emotion. Like everybody in the country was.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. This morning already, the first 30 minutes, the most watched live sports show on Twitter this morning. So appreciate everybody checking us out. Obviously, SportsGrid distributes this show on all those fast channels. So love having you guys here. We're on YouTube at 12 o'clock every day. And you can download and subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel as you see fit. I did just tweet out, I think, a very funny picture and a non-funny story. Did you see that story, Tyrone, of 12 tons of Kit Kats went missing in Europe somewhere?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Yeah.
I did see that. What happened?
Apparently that's why Tiger was in such a rush driving home.
Oh, God. I see what you just tweeted out.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So here's
Chocolate
the deal.
all on his lips.
Here's the deal on Tiger Woods. So it's a Florida law that if you refuse a urine sample after being pulled over under the what should we call it? What's the word? I'm blocking on a word right now. I'm having a mental moment right now. The suspicion
under the influence?
of being driving under the influence. Yeah, thank you. It's state law in Florida, not in every state, that if you, he took the breathalyzer, he blew 000s, just like he did a few years ago. If you refuse the urine sample when they take you back to the precinct, that's against the law in Florida, which is why he got charged with a DUI, and that's why he got arrested. Now, the officers are also allowed to use, their best judgment based on their experience and their training. If you appear to be under the influence, even if you blow 000s for alcohol, that they are allowed to arrest you for DUI. And part of that is because if you don't submit to the urine test, it's really the officer's judgment. And look, the picture of Tiger, look, I don't know, he doesn't look sober in that picture.
No.
But again, people have different looks different times of day. So Tiger apparently, there you go. Yeah, I just put that out there. That's funny. I don't know. So,
Give me a break.
So apparently the reason Tiger has refused hiring a driver, which many people of his wealth hire, is because he doesn't want anybody to know what he's doing all day. Because he's probably doing stupid stuff all day. Whether that's with other women, whether that's whatever it might be, that he doesn't want somebody out there to know what he's up to. It's why he fired one of my best friends who ran his estate and was his private chef when he started dating Lindsey Vonn, because they didn't want anybody to know that they were dating because it wasn't out there yet. So he fired a guy that he just gave a AAA rating for, sight unseen. All right, so that's kind of what he does. But you do get to a point where it doesn't matter what you want. The state of Florida should suspend his license now. He should be
I agree.
forced into having a personal driver. We know he can afford it. A lot of ex-military and police do that as a job after retirement, and they can be trusted, and they sign NDAs. So I don't care if you're banging the IHOP waitress or the girl next door or anybody else. Those men or women that have those jobs are legitimately sworn to secrecy, right? They sign documents that say, we can't tell anybody what we saw you do or where we took you. But you do come to a point, I know I'm a bit on the soapbox here, and I apologize for that. I try to avoid making speeches on this show. You're now a menace to everybody else on the road. This was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This wasn't a guy driving home, from the club at 2 o'clock in the morning who had one too many to drink. While it's still wrong, we've all made that dumb decision at some parts of our lives. This is broad daylight, dude. This is 2 o'clock in the afternoon that you flip this SUV and you're lucky to be alive and lucky that you didn't hurt somebody else. So I understand I'm a private person. I don't want people to know what I'm doing or where I'm at. You've lost that right. In my opinion, this is serious now. He clearly needs help, whatever he might be dependent on, whether it's recreational narcotics like a gummy and marijuana, or whether it's something that's prescribed by a doctor. He's clearly incapable of driving safely. So the state of Florida should take away his license, and he should be forced into hiring a driver or open up an Uber account. Now, to me, if you're Tiger Woods, Uber's not the answer. But a former member of the FBI, a Florida cop that's now doing it, a post-retirement, that's who you go hire. Look, there's back in the day when I was living a bougie life and I had a guy drive me when I had a pretty long commute at 2 o'clock in the morning to and from work, right? And I hired 2 different former New Jersey state troopers who drove me. I didn't make him sign NDAs. I wasn't doing anything stupid or that I was worried about him finding out about. But they offered it to me. They're like, do you want us to sign an NDA? And I go, I got nothing to hide, right? No, just get me to point A and point B. So I know the lifestyle. So that's what Tiger should do. And I'll give you an example of how serious it is. He's now dating Donald Trump Jr.'s ex-wife. And they have children together, okay? So Donald Trump, and forget about him as a president of politics for a second. Here he's just being a grandfather. He has already said that his grandchildren are not allowed to drive in a car that Tiger Woods is driving. And if he's going to take Kai Trump, for example, or I think is President Trump's niece, if I think I have that right, not his grandchild, right? She is not allowed to drive in a car that Tiger Woods is driving. That Secret Service drives his niece and his grandchildren instead of Tiger Woods. That's all you should need to know about how people in his inner circle think about his ability to drive during the day, let alone at night after dinner with a couple bottles of wine that might be served, right? And Tiger Woods, sadly, is becoming a joke. His legacy is not just the greatest golfer I've ever seen play and the only guy I ever wanted to watch play golf, but now he's a menace. He's a guy that needs help, and he's at such a place of power and fame and so many ass kissers in his life and people just along for the ride that I wonder, is there anybody in his life that gives it to him straight? Because he's got his own children as well. Imagine being Charlie Woods, who's now a bit of a public figure because he's trying to become a professional golfer. He's a top 20 ranked junior golfer in the world right now. Think about that kid who's enrolled at Florida State right now. You think it's easy being Tiger Woods' kid? Yeah. When he's the greatest golfer on the planet, it's very easy. When he's the guy that's taken his 3rd mugshot in the last decade, it ain't that easy. And again, I'm being on a soapbox here. I acknowledge it. I apologize perhaps. But it's time for someone to be the adult in the room and take away Tiger Woods' driver's license.
Yeah, real fast before we go to break. Don't we think at this point he needs to go to rehab? He's addicted to something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, something.
But at this point, go to rehab.
Yeah, he needs help for sure. posted that photograph of, it's an AI picture, obviously. Tiger Woods eating Kit Kat because 12 tons of Kit Kats went missing, and he's got chocolate. There you go. So you know how this is going to go, Tyrone. Some guy named Chris Riley, who I don't know from Adam, who claims he's executive editor at riskhedge.com, a disruption research firm, which sounds completely invented. Writes in all capitals, not cool. And then he writes, take it down and take it down now. In all capitals now. I don't know. Maybe because of the Kit Kat story? You think he's upset because 12 tons of Kit Kats went missing? But Kit Kat did announce there'll be no shortage for Easter. For those of you that like eating Kit Kats this Sunday, obviously Easter Sunday is coming up. And those of you that celebrated Palm Sunday yesterday, many respects, as this is the High Holy Week for many of you. Jews, of course, Passover on Wednesday. So a very holy week for all of us, or many of us, not all of us, this week. Real quick, it's also a holy week for us Jet fans, because Aaron Glenn actually came out of his shelter and spoke to NFL Network yesterday and was asked about Geno Smith. Now, there are stories out there that Geno Smith was not the Jets' first choice, that Aaron Glenn actually wanted Kirk Cousins. But neither here nor there. If you're a diehard Jet fan, which you're not, Tyrone, put yourself in my feet for a second, in my shoes, listen to Aaron Glenn wax poetic about Geno Smith and his expectations with him as our starting quarterback. Go ahead.
Aaron, I know you've said Geno Smith is a Jet. What does it mean to have Geno back in the building?
It means to have a bona fide starter come in and lead this offense to where it needs to go. Listen, he's done it, a couple of years. I mean, those years in Seattle when he was, I think, comeback player of the year. Man, he was up for MVP early in the season. There's no doubt in my mind that we brought a competent starter here in this team. I look forward to him getting in the building.
So just to be clear, Geno Smith is the starting quarterback.
No doubt about it. He's our guy.
Yeah, he's wow.
What?
A competent starter, number one. Again, yes, he did have a great year and a half in Seattle. No one's going to take that away from him. He got him a $100 million contract, well-earned, well-deserved, okay? And he was comeback player of the year. And again, that's on tape. That's history. That's real. And he gets to tell his grandkids about that year plus that he had playing out in Seattle. I'll never take that away from him. But are we forgetting what he's done since then? Are we forgetting that all Seattle had to do was go from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold and win a Super Bowl? Are we forgetting what he did in Las Vegas, which is go to Vegas and get them the number one pick overall? I want to be respectful. 3-4 years ago, Geno Smith was like, bang, I can play football. And he got paid because of it. But if we want to go to more recent examples of Geno Smith as your starting or a starting quarterback, the dude can't play. Led the league in interceptions, led the league in sacks last year with 55. Forgot it's supposed to be a pretty mobile quarterback and a great athlete who can get out of the pocket. And I know the Raiders' offensive line stunk and they deserve the bulk of the blame, but he still got sacked 55 times, led the league in interceptions. He gave Seattle a Super Bowl by leaving, and he gave Las Vegas the number one pick by going there. And that's the guy? That's the competent quarterback that the head coach of the Jets has no doubt in his mind about?
Well, I feel bad for you, Craig. Now, and the other part, if we're being honest, they're drafting Ty Simpson. So therefore, by October at the latest, he's going to be the starter anyway. So he can say he's the starter now.
By the way, and I'm with you. If you want to draft, I'm not a Drew Aller guy. I don't like Penn State quarterbacks because they all suck. Always have, always will. And he sucked last year. I'm not aware about, well, he was kind of injured. No, he sucked. He sucked because he sucks. Right? Yeah. And I know Ty Simpson had a bad year too, and he had injuries and this and that. And people claim if you look at his tape the last couple weeks versus middle of the season, I can accept that. At least Ty Simpson, look, he's not 6'5", like Fernando Mendoza is. He's more like 6'1" or 6'2", which makes it much harder to be an NFL quarterback. But back to the Geno Smith. Again, I know you have to sell us the guy you signed. I get that. You can't sign Geno Smith, even if it was the GM's choice, and have the head coach come out and go, I don't know if he's my number one. I'm not quite sure if he's going to be the guy when there's no other quarterback on the Jet roster right now. So I know he's the guy. I know you got to say nice things about him. But, man, when I saw that as a Jet fan, you're not going to believe this, Tyrone. You know what I said? And I'm ashamed of myself for thinking it. I go, just once. It might be nice to root for a different team that wears green.
Oh, wow. Come on over with your family.
I'm talking about the Packers, not the Eagles. I would never be an Eagle fan. You know that. Feel better, Tyrone. Thank you for watching. We'll do it again tomorrow. Have a great day.